thank you so much, Barb, for spending the time to talk with us. And I'm really excited to hear about um, different music technology classes that you work with, how you work with your students. Also, you have this great book that I've read in the past. That's a great resource for teachers. And yeah, thanks for spending the time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so maybe just a little introduction of who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I teach electronic music and audio engineering at Greenwich High School in Greenwich, Connecticut. And this is my 15th year teaching the subject. We started the course, Greenwich, Connecticut started the course in 1969. So we think it's one of the first music technology courses to be taught. I started teaching here, as I said, 15 years ago, and I taught this course and I taught guitar. Now I teach nothing but music technology classes here at Greenwich High School. We have a large school, 2,700 students, so we have lots of band, lots of orchestra, lots of chorus, guitar, music theory classes, and
Mm,
4 levels of electronic music.
great. Wow, that's a lot of different classes. That's
Yep.
fantastic to hear. I didn't realize that you have three to four, you said, depending.
Yeah, so kids can take an introductory course, and then there are 3 upper levels. And we're building a recording studio, and that'll be available in the fall. So we're going to be doing a whole different kind of curriculum geared to live recording, and live sound reinforcement, things like that.
Great. Well, I guess my first question might be is we were talking a little bit before this call about music programs, music technology in schools, and you had an interesting thing around that. And I don't know if you want to talk about that again, but I'm also interested in hearing how you've seen these change over the few years or over the years that you've taught this. Like, how has music technology been interacting with students, as well as like curriculum, stuff like that?
Uh, well, let's see. When I first started teaching here, it was pretty difficult to get a handle on just making sure the technology worked,
Mm,
because it was really old school. We had old PCs, old hand-me-downs that no one really wanted. So of course you would give them to the music or art teachers, and who always needed more processing power anyway. So we got the crappy computers and trying to route this and route that. And I didn't really know much about it, and it was very difficult and cumbersome. And we'd have to reboot the computers every 20 minutes. We finally went to Apple computers, only because at the time Apple was a much more stable product for music. That's what we had determined, and the art teacher and I decided we were sharing a lab, we'd do that. And also, Apple had just bought Logic, and so they were coming out with this. They hadn't yet come out with it by the time we had our lab. The new product was GarageBand.
mhm,
So basically, over the years, it was so expensive, students couldn't afford advanced software. GarageBand came out in 2005, I think it was 2004, 2005, and so students could not afford getting something like Logic or some other expensive program. Cubase was big at the time, and other software was professional recording software. So they really had no clue how to even use the software, let alone any music composition techniques or how to compose with music. We were doing a lot of MIDI composition. So that's really changed a great deal, especially over the last 2 or 3 years. Only in the last 2 3 years has Apple even dropped the price of Logic from, it was 5 or 6 years ago, $1,000 to $500, and now it's only $200 because you're only getting a portion of what was a bigger package. So for $200, kids get Logic. It's not such a big deal anymore.
mhm,
It's a big deal for some people, but it's not such a big deal for everyone. And the other thing that's really made a huge difference is YouTube, that students can go to YouTube and learn whatever it is they want to learn. Miss, how do I do this? They don't have to come to me. They just look it up on YouTube and they know it. So their knowledge of how to use the software has drastically increased. What has not changed is their basic knowledge about music and their basic knowledge about mixing and using the
mm,
software in a musical way, using the software to create what it is that they want to create, and then how do I then put it out there in the world so that it's balanced, it's clear. That's the whole audio engineering, music production, mixing phase that's separate from the actual composition portion. So over the years, really what's changed with technology is its accessibility, and the accessibility of learning it so quickly and easily.
Another question that I have is, when you are teaching classes, there's this balance between the technology and the actual music, the actual like inspiration and creation, and not
Right.
getting bogged down by the technical. And I'm just wondering how you might balance that, or what is good examples of how you use these things to teach core concepts around music.
I don't think teaching technology is any teaching with technology, computer technology, and the available music technology today is any different than teaching any other instrument. The complexity of teaching with music technology today is that students aren't just playing an instrument. I'm a percussionist. So when I learn to play, I learn to play an instrument. So I play my instrument. As a percussionist, you have to learn several different instruments and several different techniques. So it becomes that little change in that, and that's complex. But I don't think that's any different than any other instrument that learns to play in multiple styles or genres or other things. So you have to learn the instrument. So I don't think it's really any different in that regard. The way I make it easy for students is to try and take away the complexity of the software, for instance. So students will start in GarageBand, which is really easy software. You can master GarageBand in about 5 or 6 hours. It's not difficult, it's just whatever you need, it's there. It's limited. So then what happens is students begin to say, oh, you know what, I really want to do this. It's like, well, you can't do that in GarageBand. So now let's take it to Logic. So when students want to do something, that's the reason to teach that aspect of the software that allows them to accomplish it. Mm-hmm. So, or when I want to open up a new concept, that's the reason to show them that aspect of the software that allows them to accomplish it. That's kind of the short answer. I think it brings me to a really interesting concept that I've been thinking a lot about over the last several years, and I'll be speaking at the Time Technology Conference in Texas this February.
I'll see you there. Great.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Do you know Will Kuhn? You should know Will Kuhn. Okay. Have you interviewed him yet? You should. He's a good guy.
No, he's on the list. Yeah.
Yeah, I met Will Kuhn many years ago, and he's younger. He has a master's degree in music technology. He's a DJ. He comes from a very different background than I do. I was a classical percussionist. I went to conservatory. I'm 52. We didn't have music technology in school really back then. And, we learned how to use a tape recorder. Great. But that was it. So Will comes from a particular background where he really feels like if he could teach this button, that button, the other button, it shows kids how to create music. I don't have a problem with that. It's not where I came from. So I was always taking the approach of let me teach certain musical aspects and have kids perform it mostly on the piano keyboard, and then capture it in the software. So for instance, there's in software, as you well know, there's the arpeggiator, correct? So the arpeggiator, especially on old-fashioned synthesizers, will just give you a repeated note, and you can set it to be repeat at the 8th note, the quarter note, the 16th note, whatever it is. So you push a button, it goes dot, 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 dot. Or if you push a button and you're playing a chord, it'll arpeggiate the chord. Da, 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 da. And any particular arrangement that you then choose. I never show my students the arpeggiator. I want them to play the arpeggiation at the piano. And they get a little pissed off at me when they realize, oh, miss, I could just push a button. Now, I've always been of the mind, I always want to show them at the piano. And I'm really starting to rethink this because of what is available in the software, especially with the new software. This stuff becomes at the forefront, what they're calling smart tools now in these music it makes it smart for you to push a button and it does all this stuff. For me, it doesn't make you too smart about it musically, but it's really what it is. It becomes a matter of perspective. Which way are you looking at it? Because it's not that Will doesn't teach what an arpeggio is. He does. He just takes a different approach about it. So I'm starting to rethink about the availability of the technology and how do we engage students in creating music And to what degree do you want to force the issue about learning music theory first in the creation of music, or how can we do both at the same time? There's got to be a balance, I think. So that's what I'm looking at.
Yeah, that's the kind of conundrum I deal with as well, especially because I'm teaching purely electronic musicians or coming into schools into their more electronic type of world, and I find that so many people don't have base concepts that it's like, yeah, there's a balance to be
Yeah,
struck.
I think for students in high school, I think it's really fine to use loops, for instance. I don't let my students use the pre-recorded loops too much, but I think it's a fine tool. I think it's a great tool. And I think it's fine for students in high school to push buttons in this. I think if students or anyone wants to get serious about being a musician and being an audio engineer, you have to be a musician and you have to know these things. The best producers in the world are some of the most fantastic musicians. You know, it's just true. They are. And if you go to major recording schools, major schools, you have to audition on an instrument or sing to get in. They're just not going to take you just because you know how to push some buttons. They want to know, have you really developed this ear, and do you have a foundation of music theory and music knowledge that will take you as a producer, as an audio engineer, to the next level. So I think it's crucial for kids to really make a decision at some point in their life where you want to go, because you're going to have to know it. There's very, very, very few professional musicians in the world that don't know how to read music. I don't think it's a necessary skill to know for most high school students who are doing what we do, what I teach. But I think that if you want to eventually become a professional, these are basic things that's just going to separate you from somebody else, or worse off, somebody else from you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And this also perfectly goes into hearing about your book, because I got your book when I was looking at different curriculum ideas
Right.
around music technology, and I'm working in Ableton Live, which is a different program than what you were showing, but the concepts are very much there. So maybe if you want to talk about that's your only book, or do
It's
you have
my only
others?
book.
Okay.
It is my only book. I'm a contributing author in a book that's going to be coming out. And I contributed to another book that is out with a different publisher, but it is my only solo book right now. You know, I tell you something. I started writing that book. It came out in 2013, I think. And I started writing the book in probably 2009, really. And back then, there really wasn't a lot available. And there really still isn't a lot available. And I was really looking for, a lot of people are asking me, what do you do? How do you do it? Do you have lessons? And I thought, there's so many people out there who want to do this course or want to teach using technology, and they don't know where to go. So I took the approach that was from where my background. In my background, I had noticed that students knew they may be able to manipulate the software and they may be able to learn about the software, but really what they were missing was some very basic musical concepts that I think are a foundation for creativity. I mean, it's true, you can do whatever you want and play around, but I'm a music teacher and I'm a high school music teacher. And I would like students at this age to have a certain foundation of knowledge. Whatever they do after that, that's their business. So for me, because of my background, I took an approach that is very old school, kind of conservatory. You know, what are scales, chords, arpeggios? How do you construct a melody? How do you improvise? What are some contexts for it? And I have found over the years that if I can just give students a little bit of knowledge, it somehow suddenly miraculously finds its way into their own compositions. It's amazing. I think that when they start to play and they say, "Oh, that's a chord. Oh, look at that. That's a chord. How do you do a chord progression? Oh, here are possibilities. Oh, wow." And it opens it up. And giving them little exercises for them to learn certain foundation concept knowledge about melody writing, which is quite difficult for people in general, and kids, and especially 8-bar melodies. So what can I do to help them? I give them little exercises. How can I teach them certain skills? How do they understand how to get a bass line out of a chord progression? So once they understand these things in these exercises, they can begin to freely create. It's kind of what I tell them all. I feel that they are like artists looking at a blank canvas. And some of them come to the class already knowing certain paint strokes. They know about color combinations. They know different tools that they can use to create and paint. And my job is to give them more tools and more knowledge so they can freely create. And that's what the book was about, a kind of a guided path of many different things to do in teaching. I don't think, I'm going to have to qualify this. I don't think my book is the do-all and end-all. I don't think it is the ultimate guide. It was a place for people to start, a place for people to have a collection of, I think there's something like 28 units of study and 70 lesson plans in there. And you can grab it and customize it for yourself, mix and match, take a guide. And so someone who's like, I don't know where to begin, this is a place to begin. And I certainly hope that teachers will customize it and use it and change things around and mix and match how they like and add to it. I've been adding to it. I don't use the book actually complete the way it is. So look out for the second edition.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of that was a great answer. That was a lot of information about your class, curriculum ideas, concepts around music technology, and I really appreciate it. There was some really inspiring ideas that I hope other teachers will hear, and they'll check out your book and check out what you do. Do you have like a blog or anything, any other?
Yeah, I have a website, musicedtech.com. I occasionally post some stuff there. Musetech.net, I'll occasionally post some stuff there. I'm on Music Ed Tech on Facebook and Twitter, so people can follow me there. I do want to say something that we spoke about before, if you don't mind me adding, if you could fit in, that would be great. And is that I don't want teachers to be afraid to start a music technology program or to sneak a little bit of it into their classwork if they have classroom music. I certainly don't, we talked about briefly before, a lot of band, orchestra, and chorus teachers are afraid that students will quit band, orchestra, and chorus and go into music technology. After doing this for 15 years and seeing this take off in many, many schools, it's just not the case. Kids will play music. They love playing band, orchestra, and chorus, and I encourage them to stay in those fields. I have rarely in 15 years had any kid want to leave any of the ensembles to come to my class. It's a different kid that we're reaching. So putting in a music technology course, even if it's just one semester in a high school, opens the door up for students that might not otherwise take music. So take a chance, go for it, grab those kids, and let's get them into music.
Great. Well, again, thank you for the time. And your next thing is you're going to be at the TMEA, right?
That's coming up Texas Music Educators Conference, February 2016. I'll be down there. I'll be doing a couple of conferences. Come say hi. Mm-hmm. Join us. I think we'll have a tweet up or something, so follow us on Twitter to find out. And it'll be great. It's always a lot of fun down there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Thank you, Barb.
Thanks, Isaac.